Hey guys, and welcome back to the Aether Hub. I'm Simon here bringing you more Magic the Gathering lore. Today we continue the epic story of Dominaria, our return to the plane that started the lore of MTG. This video is going to be a little different though, as the story is told through the perspective of the Weatherlight's most unique crew member, a Thallid by the name of Slimefoot the Stowaway. Now this card and character has become a fan favorite since Dominaria's release, and how can you not just love this little mushroomy face and fungal fingers? Look how cute they are! But enough mushing over Slimefoot. Yeah, I got fungus puns. Anyway, this week's story doesn't add much in terms of progressing the overall story, but rather developing characters as they interact with one another and the growing Thallid, Slimefoot. So rather than pulling the information from the story itself, let's explore a little bit about the history of the Thallid and the development of Slimefoot on the Weatherlight, pinpointing some of the more interesting aspects of this story along the way. But first, a putrid plug. Did you know that Slimefoot and his saprolings all are members of the Vorthos army? That's right, they get full access to our Discord, signed cards, exclusive sneak peeks, and behind the scenes content, along with the ability to vote on topics and appear in the credits of the Hub's videos. Learn what it means to join the Vorthos army on Patreon and the rewards you could get with your support of the channel. Check it out with the link in the description below. And I would also like to add that me and Mike from Mythic Tales, a great partner on the channel, have made an amazing animation for Slimefoot. It kind of goes into an over-dramatization of its origins, but really it came together very well, and it's getting some great reception by the community. So if you guys want to go check it out, it's linked in the description below. I really suggest it, guys. It was a great piece of lore content. Anyway, now back to this story. So how does a Thallid like Slimefoot begin its journey to sentient life? Well, like all Thallid, Slimefoot started as nothing more than a spore, originating from the forest of Yavimaya, the highest concentration of the living fungus creatures. Slimefoot in particular came from an enchanted seed that was blessed by the forest elemental and avatar named Molimo. Molimo is a rival to the avatar of Yavimaya, Multani, but since Multani is in a semi-conscious state at the moment, Molimo has been playing a bigger role in the forest's activities. Still, how did Slimefoot's spore take root on the Weatherlight of all places? Well, this seed was actually given to Joyra from Molimo, and it was this seed that carried the spore of Slimefoot. Locked on the hard surface of a seed, Joyra used it to recreate the hull of the destroyed Weatherlight. The enchanted seed took root on the Thran skeleton of the Weatherlight and, through its memory, formed the exact replica of the legendary ship. In doing so, Slimefoot's spore coalesced in the ship's engine room and started to grow. As the warm light of the ship's magical Power Stone heart supplied the Thallid with heat and light, Slimefoot went from a spore to its stalk phase fairly rapidly. Slimefoot knew little of the world and took in the information he could. Luckily, the pipework of the ship itself seemed to funnel in voices from all over the engine room. Slimefoot learned quite a bit about this structure and those who crewed it, learning the language, relationships, and demeanor of the entire crew. Quite the clever little critter. He was first discovered by random crew members handling its reconstruction who wanted to get rid of the tendril mass. But as they were distracted by the Phoenix attack from the early chapters, Slimefoot willed the stalks of its body to move itself for the first time, taking its first steps to find safety, which he managed to do. Under the light of the Power Stone core, Slimefoot could sense the very reactions of the ship's core itself. The engine could feel and react to different voices and the ideas of individuals. Slimefoot heard the voice of Tiana. He didn't really know anything about her, but the white star reacted with a warming glow. It was the voice of the one who guided the ship's reconstruction. This was Tiana to the ship. The star, aka the Power Stone, also reacted to the voice of a vampire, Arvad. The Power Stone literally called Arvad here to befriend Tiana, but we don't know why. Slimefoot could feel this dynamic taking place. Could feel the engine itself talk about it. One thing we get from Slimefoot's perspective is that the Weatherlight, or at least its Power Stone engine, is literally alive, or is at least conscious enough to plan events with a purpose while feeling and reacting to things happening aboard the Weatherlight. This is actually a great callback to the novels of old, where the Weatherlight had a conscious persona which interacted with Karn, for example. It's nice to see the Weatherlight again having this spark of life to it. The ship even reacts to the very presence of Karn. And oh guys, believe me, I'm shipping this. Karn and the Weatherlight. Anyway, Thallids have an interesting life cycle as we fast forward a little bit to when the crew first discovers the Thallid in all its massive glory. At this point, Slimefoot had generated saplings, or tiny baby Thallids as they're called. This is part of its natural tendency, and while he was conscious, there was still plenty he didn't understand. Now this is a huge disconnect for me in the story because I'm not actually sure if these are supposed to be baby Thallids or saplings. We know that Thallids make saplings, but the crew keeps referring to them as his babies, or baby Thallids. So, are they Thallids or are they saplings? I'm not really sure what they're talking about here. Arvad was actually the first to find Slimefoot as he was tracking a mysterious and pretty nasty smell throughout the ship. Arvad was first confused at this thing, but it showed no sign of aggression. Slimefoot even detached one of its arm stalks and managed to greet Arvad with a wave, letting the vampire know that he did indeed understand and could communicate, if only through gestures. Arvad calls Tiana and they talk about what should be done with the Thallid and his friends, ultimately leaving the choice up to the ship's captain, Joyra. Slimefoot was weary. If the captain didn't like his being on the Weatherlight, it could spell disaster. So, he had to introduce himself to her. Slimefoot follows Arvad and Tiana throughout the ship as he and his children are introduced to the rest of the crew. We learn throughout that the Thallid must have come from Yavi Maya, and as they just left that forest with a grumpy avatar after them, it was unlikely they were going to make a return journey anytime soon. We also kinda get a hint of the history behind the Thallid, how they came into being and all that. Well, sort of anyway. Raph, the Weatherlight's resident wizard, starts to explain a little of the Thallid's origins, but stops short as Slimefoot was present. Raph seemed to take Slimefoot's feelings into account, meaning the origin of the Thallid ain't a pleasant tale. And while Raph was too decent to explain it, I've essentially thrown decency out the window a long time ago. So Slimefoot, get ready to learn your people's precarious history. The Thallid were actually born out of desperation. The elvish clans of Sarpadio were struggling to survive following the events of the Silex Blast, the explosion Urza caused that ended the Brothers' War but changed Dominaria's environment drastically. The forest around the elves began to die, food was scarce, and their crops refused to grow. They were surrounded by only death. And that's when a forward-thinking druid of the elves named Thalion discovered a method to breathe green mana into the fungus thriving in the decay and bring about new life, a new food source. These beings were called the Thallid, and the first of them were nothing more than mindless sheep, tamed and milked like cattle. The elves actually didn't eat the Thallid themselves, but the beings they produced, little critters known as saplings. These were budding offspring, essentially, that the Thallid would produce asexually. These elves would consume the saplings and contain the Thallid to better control the food source. Over time, though, the access to green mana, which the Thallid seemed naturally able to tap into, began to grant some Thallid a sense of sentience, a budding intelligence. They began to show signs of emotion, building shelters using tools, and the elves took notice. What are you supposed to do when your food begins to feel sympathy and react to your treatment of them? What happens when it talks back? Well, those are interesting questions that these elves had to ask themselves. The culture was split evenly on the topic. Half wanted to destroy their creations and find an alternative food source. The other wanted to help this new civilization, foster its growth as they were responsible for its creation. This caused a civil war to break out, and the winners were the Thallid. During the conflict, the Thallid saw an opportunity to overthrow their creators, and so they did. The elves fell, and the Thallids grew into a naturalistic culture all their own. What were once mindless food producers for elves are now beings like Slimefoot. Look how far they've come. And that, you guys, is the latest chapter of Dominaria lore, with the history of the Thallid thrown in there for good measure. So Slimefoot is a really interesting character, super fun and charming, and obviously a fan favorite of the set. This story itself, however, didn't really add much outside of the relationship Jaya and Chandra are forming, as they're practicing pyromancy techniques and pushing Chandra to be the best she can. Still, I want to know your own thoughts on this story in the comment section below. Also, don't forget it's time to give back to the patrons in the Vorthos army. This week there'll be a foil, you guessed it, Slimefoot out there for patrons. Don't miss your chance to snag this shiny Slimefoot and visit our Patreon linked in the description below. You of course will always get signed cards, access to our Discord, and a load of other exclusive content as well as appearing in the video's credits. So these are just an added bonus, so please guys check it out. Regardless, don't forget to check out our Slimefoot animation linked in the description below, as well as at the end of this video. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll catch you next time here on the Aether Hub.